Siem Reap Cambodia has fallen. The once popular tourist town has turned into a ghost town, and experts estimate that it could take up to 10 years to get back to pre-pandemic levels. Who is really visiting Cambodia these days? As you probably know, tourists from mainland China, South Korea, and Japan, and obviously also Taiwan, used to spend a lot of time in Southeast Asian countries. However, due to the pandemic, and I would say primarily due to the difficulty associated with returning to their home country, because it's not just about whether I can go into Cambodia or not, it's also about what do I need, what is required for me to return to my home country. A citizen of China needs to quarantine for at least 2 weeks upon their return to their home country. You can see that it's gotten really difficult for people to travel because their own countries are so restrictive, and that despite of their own citizens being fully vaccinated. As of right now, primarily people with serious ties to Cambodia. We're talking long-term pass holders, work permit holders, residents, and of course citizens, spouses of Cambodian citizens. Those people are traveling to Cambodia because they have a good reason to go there, and for them it does make sense. As a regular tourist, you get 30 days and you can get another 30 days when you're in the country. So we're talking 60 days, which is not a whole lot of time considering all the hassle, considering all the costs, all the headaches associated with getting into Cambodia. And of course, the die-hard fans, the die-hard Southeast Asia crowd, people who have been living in Southeast Asia for a long time, who don't necessarily care about how much money it takes to get back into the region. Those people are always willing to bring the effort, to make the financial investment to get back into the country. But those people only make up for a very small percentage of all the tourists that visited Cambodia pre-pandemic. One of the main challenges with getting into the country is the visa situation. Yes, you can get 30 days plus a 30-day extension, but that really only allows you to stay in the country for up to 60 days. What if you want to stay for, say, half a year or a year? What options do you have? And that is exactly the problem, because you can really only get a 12-month business visa if you decide to incorporate a Cambodian company. A process that is everything but easy, a process that costs money, that requires responsibility, a process that not every person is willing to take just to spend a little bit of time in a country like Cambodia. Flight ticket costs have really gone through the roof. Traveling to Southeast Asia is more expensive than it's ever been during the past decade. The limited number of flights and the challenges associated with airlines canceling flights make it really difficult for people to come into Southeast Asia. Another big point is the fear associated with further restrictions, lockdowns, potential deportation for whatever reason, something that we have witnessed in Vietnam and Thailand. All those aspects, those negative aspects, don't really encourage people to come to Southeast Asia because you have more to lose than you have to gain, and that's rarely a proposition that people would want to take on. People have lost their friends. They have lost their girlfriends because they were unable to get into the region. And a point that I almost forgot to point out is the lack of intercontinental travel freedom. It's no longer easy to say, you know what, I'm going to Thailand tomorrow. I'm going to spend 3 to 4 weeks in Thailand. The problems associated with getting into a country like Thailand are enormous. A risk many people are unwilling to take. All right, let's talk about the benefits. Now that I've unloaded all the negative stuff, all the bad stuff, there is of course a lot of benefits that you can enjoy should you decide to travel to Southeast Asia these days, especially a place like Siem Reap, Cambodia. And one of those so important, so positive aspects is of course the lack of tourism, the lack of tourists that are currently in a place like Siem Reap. Meaning if you want to go and check out the temple, well, you're probably not going to stumble upon a lot of tourists. Most people are just not willing to come into the country because it's too difficult. Same really goes for beaches or really anything for that matter, you know. If only, let's say, 1% of tourists are in Cambodia these days, I highly doubt it's 5 to 10%, it's 1% of pre-pandemic numbers, then you know that you're going to have this whole place to yourself pretty much, and that is a privilege. Another big pro that a lot of people are aware of is simply how cheap it is to rent in Southeast Asia these days. If you just take a look on Airbnb, it's cheaper than ever to get a short-term rental. You know, you can find a fully furnished apartment for as little as $300 a month, something that would have been close to impossible to do in 2019. And no doubt that this phenomenon drags some people, not a lot of them, but some of them, back into Southeast Asia, especially people who are on a tight budget and who are willing to spend the money on the expensive flight and obviously comply to all the requirements necessary, which involve costs to get into the country. Those people can prosper should they manage to obtain a long-term visa and remain in the country and take advantage of the ultra-low living cost that you can enjoy these days. And what about dating? Because that's very important to the guys out there. You know, dating is important, and you would bet that the lack of competition, the lack of Western man material that's in Southeast Asia these days would allow you to have a lot more dating options than you had before. Undeniably, this is the truth. If you decide to go there, there's no doubt that women will be all over you. I wanted to talk very briefly about why it will take so long for a place like Siem Reap to achieve pre-pandemic numbers. And the reason for that is simply because of the whole global situation. The anxiety that it created, you know, the fear people have right now, the uncertainty, because it's no longer like, you know what, you know exactly what's going to happen when you arrive in Southeast Asia. No, this no longer applies. In fact, if you travel to Southeast Asia these days, you don't know how the government will respond. Well, in fact, you know that most Southeast Asian governments overreact, you know? They overreact, not trying to hammer them really hard, but, you know, a government that keeps changing its mind is just unable to create trust in the eyes of potential tourists, because tourists have more options. Like, Cambodia is not the only option. In fact, you have so many more options. If you want predictability, if you want stability, if you want to have real certainty when you go to a place, when you know what, this is what it's promised, and I know that what is promised is what's going to be delivered. If you want to go to a place like this, go to Latin America. Go to certain places in Eastern Europe, but stay away from Southeast Asia, because Southeast Asia has been extremely unpredictable, has been uncomfortable. It has made people, the whole continent, all governments have made people so uncomfortable. And most people that I know, that I'm talking to, have lost their trust in Southeast Asian countries. And the question is, when will this change? And I don't really have the answer for you at this moment in time, because there's so many unknown variables involved that it's impossible for me to give you an exact date and time when things could potentially return to normal. We know that it is going to happen sometime in the future, but it's impossible to tell at what specific point it will happen. When it will happen, I don't have the answer for you. But what we do know is the fact that a lot of people that are not getting into Southeast Asia now, but have gone into places like Mexico, Colombia, Panama, Dominican Republic, all the other Latin countries that have really prospered during this time of uncertainty, during this time when so many, countries worldwide had it really difficult to get tourists. But Latin countries have achieved a lot during the past 20 months. And what's happening is a lot of people are coming to Latin countries, they're coming to Eastern European countries, and you can guess what they're doing there. They want to be stable, they want to have certainty. In order for them to get certainty, in order for them to, stay in place for a longer time, they obtain residences, they obtain citizenship. So for somebody who, put in all this money, all this effort, to get into a place other than Asia, and then they're going to build their life in those places, then for those people, many of them may not want to change, even in the event that Southeast Asia should return to pre-pandemic levels. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I'm saying it's definitely off-putting for a lot of people, and a lot of people that have committed to other regions may not be as inclined to trying Southeast Asia in the near future. It's just how life works, You end a relationship, you get into a new relationship, you build a life somewhere else, you start having kids, and the same can be compared with a person looking for a home. Once they're happy somewhere, they have built their social network, they have friends, they've started a relationship, they have kids. I'm not saying that everyone's going to have a family, everyone's going to have kids. No, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying that generally speaking, that's how people are. They're not going to wait for half a decade or a decade for a place like Vietnam to get their act together before they can get back there. No. They're gonna focus on something else. The people are only willing to wait for so long. And once their patience is over, once they're maxed out and they moved on, I think many of them moved on for good. What do you think about the current situation in Cambodia? Leave a comment below and let us know. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm uploading new videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, and visas several times a week right now. I highly recommend that you grab a free copy of my ebook, Nomad Elite, the Insider's Guide to Retaining a Life of Freedom. All you need to do is click on the link below the video. And if you got some more time left, check out these videos. Thank you for watching.